The short connecting statement is from seeking to maximize collection and yield of perhaps the oldest recycled material, organics. Our next two speakers will discuss two materials with much higher levels of technology and potential for toxicity if not properly managed, but which also sit at the center of ongoing efforts to decarbonize our energy systems. Next speaker is Courtney Scott. Courtney is the Household Hazardous Waste Program Manager for Zero Waste Sonoma. She started working on HHW in San Rafael in 2011 and has been with Zero Waste Sonoma since 2016, where she works on a range of projects, including disaster cleanups, treated wood waste, solar panels, and developing a new HHW facility. She'll be speaking today about solar panels. Courtney Scott.
Hello. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in. We have been talking about solar panels at Zero Waste Sonoma for a couple of years now because we get occasional calls, and when people tell us that they have solar panels that they don't know anything to do with, we also tell them we don't know what to do with them. So nobody likes that answer, but a little bit more of a history is the Department of Toxic Substances Control in 2021 designated solar panels as universal waste, which is a subcategory of hazardous waste, which has fewer regulations. Solar panels can contain silver, copper, lead, arsenic, cadmium, selenium, among other toxic metals, and also rare earth metals. And solar panels are not necessarily labeled, so it's hard to determine if a panel is in fact hazardous or not. So you can see here is an example of an average label on a solar panel, and while it does warn you for electrical potential and warning about electrical shock, it does not warn you about any toxins it may contain. The other reason we were interested in pursuing a solar panel collection program is because the new state mandates that solar panels need to be on so many new buildings. We thought it would be important to have a supply of reused materials that could help meet that demand. And there's not currently enough raw materials in the United States and around the world even to meet that demand. So there's still a minimal recycling infrastructure in this state, even though the state passed it as universal waste. According to the Department of Toxic Substances Control website, there are 4 recyclers in the state of California that will accept solar panels, but that doesn't mean that all 4 are currently accepting or recycling solar panels. The other issue we have in the state is that the only recycling method that we're allowed to use is mechanical recycling, which is grinding, and we're not allowed to use heat or chemistry to help separate those materials. And in Sonoma County, there are currently 0 public drop-off locations for solar panels. So that means if you own your own panels, there's nowhere for you to bring them. You may have some options if you lease your panels and your installer is still in business. So here is what we applied for with CalRecycle, and this is what we did end up receiving. We asked for $100,000 to host up to 6 collection events. We host 1 to 2 events a month with our partners, the Conservation Corps North Bay, for e-waste collection events. Those rotate around the county. And so we thought it would be best to just ask them to take the panels, and we thought that was a good arrangement since we were already going to be there for a material that's very similar. Part of this grant, when we receive the solar panels, we test them, and then we determine which ones are good for reuse and recycling. We are not able to do repairs, which I'll touch on later. We do require appointments, so we get some data from the participants, which ended up not being as useful as I was hoping for. And then the recycler that we use is ERI in Fresno. So here's just some pictures from our first event. This was in Santa Rosa. For this event, we had almost 20 appointments, and you can see that truck there is full. We allow residents of Sonoma County to bring up to 40 panels per event. In our opinion, no resident should ever have more than 40 panels unless you have a very large compound. Let's see. Okay. And then this is an example of the type of material that we were receiving. So you can see these are the backs of different types of solar panels. You can see a range of damage that makes these not capable for us to reuse because, like I said, we don't repair. So one of the box, the cables are cut, another junction box, all the wires are completely missing from the box, and the last one just has no labels and no box and no nothing. Here's another example of the type of material we're receiving, which is heavily, heavily damaged panels that are not worth salvaging at all. You can see here there's burn marks from, this looks like a spontaneous combustion or an electrical issue caused that one, and the other ones are completely shattered. I have no idea what happened there. I'm guessing a resident just let it fall off of the roof. They're like, I don't know how to do this, so let's just let it fall. So here's a graph of our 4 events that we've hosted so far. We've held 2 in Santa Rosa, 1 in Petaluma, and 1 in Rohnert Park. And you can see that the green column is what we collected, the yellow column is what we recycled, and the blue, unfortunately, is what we were able to reuse after our assessments. So some interesting findings for us is that there were significantly fewer panels eligible for reuse than we were hoping. We had been hearing some feedback from past grants that reuse was really successful for them, but because our programs were so different, those ones, I believe they were mostly able to work with installation companies and kind of coordinate and then pick those up from that house. Whereas we have no communication with installation companies and we don't want to for this grant. CalRecycle said, you know, we're not trying to service businesses, we're trying to help out residents. Many of the panels we've received are extremely old, like been reused 3 or 4 times. So that tells us that we have quite a large network in our county. We are a pretty hippie progressive county, so I think we've had solar for a few decades now. And it seems like there's just a great network, people that know how to give away their old panels instead of trashing them. We also did receive quite a bit of requests for hydro panels. And while they're not technically what we were aiming for this grant, CalRecycle let us take them, and these people have been holding on to them for years. This is a picture of a hydro panel. It's 10 feet long, so it's, you know, not fun to have that hanging around your backyard forever. And then CalRecycle also allowed us to collect small garden lights, so we've had 31 of those. So most customers reported that they needed to use our services because their panels were either damaged by a natural disaster. Sonoma County has had our fair share of disasters in the last 5 years. Other reasons were that the original company that the resident purchased the panels from went out of business and no other company wants to take on those panels. And then this one's frustrating for me. BP and other recalled panels. We've been ending up with a lot of these BP panels. We are not like solar panel manufacturing experts. We don't know the industry that well, so there are probably lots of other types of panels that have been recalled, but BP is like the main one. And 28% of our panels that we've collected have been BP, and to me that is just not fair. You know, if your product was recalled, then you need to collect them back, but yeah. Okay, so on a happier note, so we were able to reuse some panels. I think 45-ish panels we were able to reuse. We worked with a local company called Cowshades to put us in connection with local farms. So this guy up here, he got some nice new panels for his mushroom farm. And then the other panels that had just been a hodgepodge in small quantities, we brought those to the Habitat for Humanity Restore. And I just happened to be visiting when some gentleman was purchasing them for his son who lives off-grid. So that was cool. Okay, last slide, the future programs with us. So we did just purchase our very first property, and we will be the proud owners someday of a shining brand new HHW facility, and we will be accepting solar panels at that facility, but that's probably 5 years out. So we're going to release an RFP and try to figure out how to collect these moving forward after this grant expires. And then pay attention to AB2 and 1238.
We got time for quick questions, maybe one or two. If there are one or two quick questions.
Ooh.
All right, you included all the information.
Oh.
All right. Yes, sir. I think it's probably the last. A little behind, but let's see how it goes.
Hello. Excuse me if I missed this, but did you mention if there were going to be any type of program similar to like the CRVs, computers, TVs, where they put it in the purchase of the solar panels? Because there's more and more regulations of, the clean energy and people trying to get these panels on their house with no way of recycling them when they are done. I don't even know, what's the typical lifespan of a solar panel?
Well, they claim 20 to 30 years of lifespan, but CPSC is actually working on AB2, which is a solar panel EPR bill. So hopefully in the future we will have what you are just describing.
Yeah, because I just recently purchased a home, and now I can't afford to drive to work. So the more and more you see these Teslas and clean energy cars that they're talking about, when is the bill coming where there's not going to be making any more gas vehicles? So if people are going to be putting these solar panels on their houses to charge their vehicles, and there's nothing to do with them when they're done, then they better come up with that bill fast. That's it.
Is there another question out there? I think we're gonna thank Courtney and move the line. Courtney, one of 3 people on stage from Zero Waste Sonoma today. So.